"You can't come in, sir. That badge is older than my dad." The young soldier's voice cut through the morning air, sharp and cold, like a blade on stone. He didn't even look up from his tablet, just waved a hand to shoo the old man away. Jordan Hayes stood still, his worn boots planted on the gravel outside the cemetery gate. His heart pounded, not from anger, but from the weight of the moment. He clutched a faded cap in his left hand, his right arm ending in a scarred stump just below the elbow. On his chest, pinned to a threadbare jacket, was a small cloth square, hand-stitched with the name Emma. The uneven letters caught the breeze, trembling like a memory. It was his daughter's work, sewn with love before a car crash stole her at 16. Jordan's eyes stayed calm, but inside he burned. He wasn't here to fight. He came to say goodbye to a friend, a general, a man who'd saved his life once under fire. The soldier at the gate, barely 20, tapped his tablet again. "Name's not on the list, sir. This is a private funeral. Military only." His buddy, standing nearby, smirked and leaned in. "That patch looks like a kid's art project. You sure you're at the right place, Grandpa?" Jordan didn't flinch. He adjusted the cloth square with his good hand, feeling the rough stitches under his fingers. Emma's hands had made it, her last gift before that rainy night. He stepped back from the gate, not because he gave up, but because he knew his place wasn't won by arguing. He stood straight, shoulders square, eyes fixed on the flags fluttering beyond the iron bars. The cemetery was alive with crisp uniforms, polished shoes, and the hum of a gathering crowd. Jordan was an outsider now, a ghost in a faded jacket. A third soldier, a woman named Taylor, glanced over from her post. She noticed Jordan's stance, the way he held himself like he was still on duty. Her eyes lingered on the stump, then the patch, but she said nothing, just turned back to her clipboard. Jordan didn't care. He wasn't here for pity. He was here for General Ryan Carter, the man who'd pulled him from a ditch in Fallujah, bullets flying, and whispered, "You owe me one, Hayes." That was 30 years ago, but Jordan remembered every second. He'd come to honor that debt, even if it meant standing outside like a stranger. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the gravel. Jordan's legs ached, but he didn't move. People passed by, officers in dress blues, families with polished shoes, a few reporters snapping photos. Some glanced at him, their eyes flicking over his old jacket and missing arm. One man, a civilian with a camera, muttered, "Why is he still here?" but kept walking. Jordan ignored it. He stared through the gate, where white chairs lined up under a canopy. A Marine color guard practiced their steps, silent and precise. The air smelled of fresh grass and duty, but to Jordan, it carried the weight of promises kept. A group of younger soldiers wandered close, laughing about something on their phones. One of them, Alex, spotted Jordan and nudged his friend. "Check out the old-timer. Bet he thinks he's still in the fight." The others chuckled, their voices careless, not cruel, but sharp enough to sting. Alex stepped closer, pointing at the Emma patch. "What's that?" "Your girlfriend's name." Jordan's jaw tightened, but he didn't answer. He raised his good hand to touch the patch, then let it fall. The laughter faded as Alex shrugged and walked off, tossing a half-empty water bottle into the grass. Jordan watched it roll, his chest tight. He wasn't here for them. He was here for Ryan. The guard at the gate, Morgan, checked his tablet again. "Sir, I need you to move back. You're blocking the path." Jordan nodded once, stepping a few feet away. He didn't argue. He never did. But he stayed close enough to see the flags, to hear the faint hum of the national anthem starting inside. His eyes traced the canopy where Ryan's casket would rest. He remembered Ryan's laugh, rough and warm, the way he'd shared a cigarette under a desert sky. "Don't let me go out alone," Ryan had said once, half joking, half serious. Jordan had nodded then, and he wasn't breaking that promise now. A sudden gust of wind tugged at his jacket, revealing the scarred stump where his arm ended. He pressed the fabric down, gentle but firm. Taylor, the soldier at the gate, looked over again. This time, her eyes softened, but she didn't speak. Jordan didn't need her to. He stood taller, his cap now back on his head, tilted just right. The anthem's notes drifted out, faint but clear, and he felt his spine straighten, like it did every time he heard it. He wasn't inside, but he was here. That was enough for now. Across the field, the ceremony began. A rifle volley cracked the air, sharp and final. Jordan closed his eyes for a moment, picturing Ryan's face, not the general's, but the young soldier who dragged him to safety. He opened them when he heard footsteps. A tall officer, Captain Riley, stood nearby, watching him. Riley's uniform was crisp, a silver star pinned to his chest. He didn't say anything, just nodded slightly, like he saw something the others didn't. Jordan didn't nod back. He just waited, his hand resting over the Emma patch, as if it could hold the past together. Jordan Hayes stood just outside the cemetery gate, his eyes locked on the distant canopy where General Ryan Carter's funeral unfolded. The rifle volley's echo faded, replaced by muffled voices from the ceremony. His hand rested over the Emma patch, the stitches rough against his palm. The wind carried the scent of polished leather and cut grass, but to Jordan it smelled like memory, desert dust, blood, and Ryan's quiet promise to never leave a man behind. He wasn't moving, not yet. He'd wait as long as it took. Captain Riley, the officer who'd nodded earlier, lingered nearby. His silver star glinted in the sun, but his face was unreadable. He glanced at Jordan, then at the gate guard, Morgan, who was busy checking another guest's credentials. "Who's the old guy?" Riley asked, his voice low. Morgan shrugged, not looking up. "Some vet. No clearance. Says he knew the general." Riley's eyes narrowed, but he didn't push. Instead, he walked off, his boots crunching the gravel, leaving Jordan alone again. The crowd inside grew louder, clapping for a speaker Jordan couldn't see. He pictured Ryan's casket, draped in a flag, surrounded by people who knew the general but not the man. Ryan had been more than medals and titles. He'd been the guy who shared his last water bottle, who wrote letters for soldiers too shaken to hold a pen. Jordan's chest tightened. He'd promised to be here, and no gate was stopping him. A new group of soldiers approached, their uniforms crisp, their laughter sharp. Alex, the one who'd mocked Jordan's patch earlier, was among them. He spotted Jordan and grinned. "Still here, Pops? They're not letting you in. Give it up." Jordan didn't answer, just stared through the bars. Alex's friend, a short guy named Logan, nudged him. "Bet he's got some war story he thinks makes him special." They laughed, but it was softer now, like they weren't sure. Jordan's silence unnerved them. Then a twist. Taylor, the female guard, stepped over. "Knock it off, Alex," she said, her voice firm. "He's not bothering anyone." Alex rolled his eyes. "Come on, Taylor. Look at him. He's like ancient." Taylor glanced at Jordan, her eyes catching the Emma patch again. "He's got more right to be here than you do, running your mouth." The words hung heavy. Alex's smirk faded, and he backed off, muttering something under his breath. Jordan didn't thank her. He just nodded once, a soldier's acknowledgement. The ceremony's music swelled, a slow hymn that tugged at Jordan's heart. He closed his eyes, remembering Emma's funeral, how he'd stood alone by her grave, the patch still fresh on his jacket. She'd loved Ryan's stories, calling him Uncle Ree, even though he wasn't family. Ryan had promised to take her fishing one day. He never got the chance. Jordan opened his eyes, his jaw tight. He wasn't leaving. Another twist came fast. A civilian woman, maybe 40, pushed through the crowd toward the gate. Her dress was simple, her eyes red from crying. She stopped short when she saw Jordan. "You're him," she whispered, her voice shaking. Jordan frowned, confused. "Ma'am." She clutched a folded letter in her hand. "Dad, General Carter. He told me about you. The man who saved him in Fallujah." Jordan's breath caught. He hadn't expected this. "I'm just here to say goodbye," he said softly. The woman, who introduced herself as Morgan Carter, Ryan's daughter, wiped her eyes. "He kept your picture in his office. Said you were the reason he came home." Jordan's hand trembled over the Emma patch. He didn't know what to say. Morgan turned to the guard. "Let him in. He belongs here." The guard, Morgan, hesitated, checking his tablet. "Ma'am, I can't. He's not on the list." Morgan Carter's voice cracked. "My father would have wanted him here. Please." The guard shook his head, apologetic but firm. "Rules are rules." Jordan touched her arm gently. It's okay, ma'am. I'll wait. Morgan Carter's face crumpled, but she nodded, clutching the letter tighter. She walked back inside, her steps heavy. Jordan watched her go, his heart aching. He hadn't known Ryan had a daughter, let alone one who knew his name. The twist left him reeling, but he stood taller, more determined. Alex and his friends lingered nearby, watching the exchange. Logan whispered, "That was the general's kid." She knew him. Alex didn't answer, his face uneasy. Taylor, still at her post, looked at Jordan with new respect. She didn't say it, but her eyes did. She was starting to see him. Jordan didn't notice. His focus was on the canopy, where a folded flag was being presented. He could barely see it through the bars, but he knew what it meant. Ryan was almost gone. A final twist for the section. Captain Riley reappeared, this time with a radio in hand. He spoke into it, his voice too low for Jordan to hear. Then he walked over, stopping just short of the gate. "You served with Carter, didn't you?" he asked, his tone careful. Jordan nodded, his voice steady. 30 years ago. Fallujah. Riley studied him, then glanced at the Emma patch. "Stay put," he said, and walked off toward a command tent. Jordan didn't know what it meant, but something in Riley's eyes, a flicker of recognition, kept him rooted. The hymn ended, and silence fell over the cemetery. Jordan's legs burned, but he didn't sit. He touched the patch again, whispering, "I'm here, Emma. For Uncle Ree." The wind carried his words away, but he felt them settle in his chest. He wasn't done yet. Jordan Hayes stood firm outside the cemetery gate, the Emma patch warm under his fingers. The funeral silence stretched, broken only by the faint rustle of flags and the murmur of the crowd inside. His legs ached, but his eyes stayed sharp, locked on the distant canopy where General Ryan Carter's casket rested. He could feel the weight of the moment, like the desert heat 30 years ago when Ryan had dragged him from a burning wreck. Jordan whispered to himself, "I'm not leaving, Ree." The words were for Emma too, her memory stitched into the cloth on his chest. The guard, Morgan, glanced over, his tablet now idle. "Sir, you're still here?" he asked, softer than before. Jordan nodded. "Got nowhere else to be." Morgan hesitated, then muttered, "I get it, but rules are rules. Wish I could help." Jordan didn't reply, just adjusted his cap. He wasn't here for favors. He was here for a promise. A new voice cut in sharp and loud. "What's this guy's deal?" It was Alex, back with his crew, their boots scuffing the gravel. Logan, the short one, smirked. "Still playing statue, huh? You think standing there's gonna get you in?" Jordan's jaw tightened, but he stayed quiet. Taylor, the female guard, snapped, "Alex, enough. Go do something useful." Alex laughed, but it was forced. "Chill, Taylor. Just saying he's wasting his time." Then a twist. Taylor stepped closer to Jordan, her voice low. "Why's that patch mean so much?" Jordan's eyes flicked to her, surprised. He hadn't expected anyone to care. "My daughter made it," he said simply. Before she passed. Taylor's face softened, her clipboard lowering. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "What was her name?" "Emma," Jordan said, his voice catching. Taylor nodded, then turned away, her eyes wet. Alex overheard, his smirk on. He shuffled, uncomfortable, and muttered, "Didn't know, man." Jordan didn't respond. He didn't need their pity. Another twist hit hard. A man in a crisp suit, badge pinned to his lapel, pushed through the crowd toward the gate. He was older, maybe 60, with a limp that matched Jordan's own. "Hayes," he called, his voice rough but familiar. Jordan froze. It was Connor, a medic from their old unit in Fallujah. Jordan hadn't seen him in decades. "Connor," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Connor grinned, but his eyes were heavy. "Heard you might show. Ryan talked about you till the end." Jordan's heart raced. "He did." Connor nodded, pulling out a worn photo from his wallet. It showed Jordan and Ryan, young, covered in dust, laughing in a war zone. "He kept this. Said you were his brother." Jordan stared at the photo, his throat tight. "I didn't know he kept it," he said. Connor clapped his shoulder. "He wanted you here. Let me talk to someone." He limped toward the command tent, leaving Jordan stunned. The crowd inside clapped again, the ceremony moving forward. Jordan caught a glimpse of Morgan Carter, Ryan's daughter, standing near the casket, her face pale. He wondered what she'd meant about the picture in Ryan's office. Why hadn't Ryan ever reached out? The thought gnawed at him, but he pushed it down. He was here now. That was enough. Alex and Logan lingered, quieter now. Logan spoke up, hesitant. "You really knew the general?" Jordan nodded once. "Saved my life once. I owe him." Logan looked down, kicking a pebble. "That's heavy," he said softly. Alex stayed silent, his eyes on the Emma patch. For the first time, he didn't joke. Taylor watched them, her expression unreadable, then turned to Jordan. "I'll see what I can do," she said, stepping toward Morgan at the gate. Jordan didn't hope. He just waited. A bigger twist came fast. Captain Riley returned, this time with a woman in a dress uniform, her silver hair tucked under a beret. She carried a small box, polished and heavy. Riley spoke first. "Mr. Hayes, this is Colonel Avery." She knew General Carter. Avery's eyes locked on Jordan, sharp but kind. "You're the one from Fallujah," she said, not a question. Jordan nodded, unsure. "Yes, ma'am." Avery held up the box. "Ryan left something for you. Said if you came, you'd know what to do with it." Jordan's breath caught. He hadn't expected this. "What is it?" he asked. Avery didn't open the box, just handed it to him. It was heavier than it looked, cold against his palm. "He said you'd understand," she said. "But you still can't come in without clearance." Jordan's heart sank, but he clutched the box tighter. "I'll wait," he said, his voice steady. Avery nodded, respect in her eyes, and walked back inside. Riley stayed, watching Jordan like he was piecing something together. The anthem played again, softer now, as the ceremony neared its end. Jordan opened the box, just a crack, and saw a glint of metal inside. His hands shook. It was Ryan's old dog tags, the ones he'd worn in Fallujah. A note was tucked beside them, in Ryan's handwriting. "Don't let me go alone, brother." Jordan closed the box, his eyes burning. He wouldn't break that promise, no matter what. Jordan Hayes clutched the small box with Ryan's dog tags, his fingers trembling over the cold metal. The note's words, "Don't let me go alone, brother," burned in his mind. He stood outside the cemetery gate, the Emma patch on his chest catching the fading sunlight. The funeral's sounds drifted out, a speaker's voice, the shuffle of boots, the snap of a flag. Jordan's heart ached, but he stayed rooted, his promise to Ryan heavier than the box in his hand. He wasn't leaving, not when Ryan had trusted him to be here. Taylor, the guard, watched him from her post. "You okay, sir?" she asked, her voice softer than before. Jordan nodded, his eyes on the distant canopy. "Just keeping a promise," he said quietly. Taylor hesitated, then spoke. "I talked to Morgan. He's checking with someone higher up. Hang in there." Jordan didn't reply, but her words sparked a flicker of hope he hadn't felt all day. Maybe someone would listen. The first twist came sharp. Alex, the young soldier who'd mocked him earlier, walked back, alone this time. His face was tight, no smirk. "Hey, I didn't mean to be a jerk," he said, rubbing his neck. "That patch, it's your kid, right?" Jordan's throat tightened. He nodded once. "Emma." Alex looked down, his boots scuffing the gravel. "My sister's name was Emma, too. She's gone. Car accident." Jordan's eyes met his, a silent understanding passing between them. "I'm sorry," Jordan said. Alex shrugged, his voice low. "Yeah, me too." He walked off, but the air felt different, heavier. A second twist hit. Connor, the old medic, reappeared from the command tent, his limp more pronounced. He wasn't alone. A young woman in a Marine uniform followed, her face serious. "Jordan, this is Lieutenant Casey," Connor said. Casey's eyes scanned Jordan, lingering on the Emma patch. "You're Hayes?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am," Jordan answered, unsure. Casey's voice was steady. "General Carter mentioned you in his letters. Said you carried him out of hell." Jordan blinked, stunned. "He wrote about me?" Casey nodded. "He left instructions. If you showed up, you were supposed to speak today." Jordan's heart stopped. Speak? He hadn't spoken in front of anyone since Emma's funeral. The third twist landed fast. Casey pulled out a folded paper from her pocket. This was in his personal effects, she said, handing it to Jordan. It was a letter addressed to him in Ryan's messy scrawl. Jordan's hands shook as he opened it. Jordan, you're the only one I trust to tell them who I was. Not the general, the man. Speak for me. Jordan's eyes burned. He hadn't known Ryan thought of him that way. Casey spoke again. But the brass won't budge. You're still not cleared to enter. Jordan nodded, his voice hoarse. I'll wait. A fourth twist turned the mood. Morgan, the gate guard, called out. Lieutenant got a call from the command tent. Casey stepped away, leaving Jordan with Connor. The old medic lowered his voice. I heard something. The 4-star General Parker is here. He knew Ryan in the field. Might know you too. Jordan's breath caught. Parker? He remembered a young officer in Fallujah, always watching, always quiet. Could it be the same man? Before he could ask, Connor limped off, saying, I'll find out. The fifth twist came like a punch. A small boy, maybe 10, slipped through the crowd to the gate. He wore a tiny suit, his eyes wide. Are you Mr. Hayes? He asked, his voice shaking. Jordan knelt, wincing as his leg ached. Yeah, kid. Who are you? The boy's lip trembled. I'm Ryan's grandson, Ethan. Grandpa said you saved him. He told me to find you. Jordan's heart twisted. Ryan had a grandson? Ethan held out a small toy soldier, plastic and worn. He said this was yours. From the war. Jordan took it, his fingers brushing the chipped paint. He remembered giving it to Ryan as a joke, something to lighten the dark. Now it was back in his hand. Jordan stood slowly, the toy soldier heavy in his pocket. Ethan's eyes were wet. Why won't they let you in? He asked. Jordan forced a smile. Just rules, kid. I'm okay here. Ethan shook his head. It's not fair. Grandpa would be mad. He ran back inside, leaving Jordan reeling. The dog tags, the letter, the toy, each piece of Ryan's life tied him tighter to this moment. Taylor watched the exchange, her face soft. That kid's right, she said. It's not fair. Jordan shrugged, his voice low. Life's not fair. But I'm here. She nodded, then turned to Morgan. Call the tent again. Tell them about the letter. Morgan hesitated, then grabbed his radio. Jordan didn't hope. He just held the box, the toy soldier, and the letter, feeling Emma's patch against his chest. The ceremony's sounds grew louder, a eulogy, a sob, a salute. He wasn't inside, but he was closer than ever. Jordan Hayes stood outside the cemetery gate, the weight of Ryan's dog tags, the toy soldier, and the letter pressing against him. The Emma patch on his chest felt like a heartbeat, tying him to his daughter and the promise he'd made to General Ryan Carter. The funeral's sound softened, a low eulogy, the rustle of uniforms, the faint cry of a bugle. Jordan's eyes stayed on the canopy, where Ryan's casket lay, surrounded by people who didn't know the man he'd laughed with in the desert. His leg ached, but he stood tall, unwilling to break. Taylor, the guard, leaned over to Morgan, whispering, You called the tent, right? Morgan nodded, his radio crackling. Yeah, they're checking. But it's a long shot. Jordan overheard, but didn't react. He'd waited 30 years to keep his word. A few more minutes wouldn't stop him. He touched the Emma patch, picturing her smile, her small hand stitching it for him. For you, Dad, she'd said. He blinked hard, pushing the memory down. The first twist came fast. Alex, the young soldier who'd apologized, returned with Logan. His face was pale, his hands fidgety. Mr. Hayes, he said, his voice low. I looked you up. You got a Purple Heart in Fallujah. Same battle as the general. Jordan's eyes widened. He hadn't talked about that in years. How'd you know? He asked. Alex held up his phone, showing an old military record. Found it online. You never told anyone. Jordan shrugged. Didn't need to. Alex swallowed, his voice shaky. I was wrong about you. I'm sorry. Logan nodded, quiet for once. Yeah, man. Respect. The second twist hit harder. A woman's voice called from the crowd. Jordan Hayes. It was Morgan Carter, Ryan's daughter, pushing through with Ethan, the grandson, at her side. She held a small, worn journal. This was Dad's, she said, her eyes red. He wrote about you. Every year, on the day you saved him. Jordan's heart raced as she handed him the journal. He opened it, seeing Ryan's handwriting. Jordan carried me out. I owe him everything. Jordan's throat closed up. He never told me, he whispered. Ethan tugged his sleeve. Grandpa said you're a hero. Jordan shook his head. Just a soldier kid. The third twist turned the air cold. A loud voice barked from the gate. What's going on here? It was a major, his uniform stiff, his face hard. He glared at Morgan Carter. Ma'am, you can't keep coming out here. This is a secure event. Morgan stood her ground. This man knew my father. He deserves to be inside. The major glanced at Jordan, his eyes flicking to the stump and the patch. No clearance, no entry. Rules are clear. Taylor stepped forward, her voice sharp. Sir, he's got General Carter's dog tags. A letter, too. The major's face didn't soften. Not my call. Take it up with command. He walked off, leaving tension in his wake. The fourth twist came quietly. Connor, the old medic, limped back, his face grim. Jordan, I talked to someone in the tent. General Parker's asking questions about you. Jordan's breath caught. Parker? From Fallujah. Connor nodded. He's the 4-star now. Says he remembers a Hayes who saved his squad. Wants to see you. Jordan's mind spun. Parker had been there, a young officer, watching as Jordan dragged Ryan to safety. Could he really help? Connor lowered his voice. But there's a problem. Some brass don't want you in. They're saying it's protocol. Jordan's jaw tightened. I don't need their permission to honor my friend. The fifth twist landed like a spark. Ethan, the boy, suddenly ran back toward the gate, slipping past Taylor. I'm telling them, he shouted, his small frame darting toward the canopy. Morgan Carter gasped, chasing after him. Ethan, wait. Jordan's heart pounded. He didn't know what the kid would do, but he felt a surge of pride. Ethan was Ryan's blood, stubborn and bold. Taylor looked at Jordan, her eyes wide. That kid's gonna stir things up, she said. Jordan nodded, a faint smile breaking through. Just like his grandpa. The crowd inside stirred, heads turning as Ethan's voice carried, small but fierce. Jordan couldn't hear the words, but he saw officers glance toward the gate. Morgan, the guard, grabbed his radio again. Sir, we've got a situation, he said, his voice tense. Jordan stood still, the box in his hand, the toy soldier in his pocket, the journal tucked under his arm. He didn't know what Ethan was saying, but he felt the shift, like the air before a storm. Alex stepped closer, his voice soft. You think the kid'll get you in? Jordan looked at him, his eyes steady. Doesn't matter. I'm here for Ryan. Alex nodded, his face different now, like he was seeing Jordan for the first time. Logan spoke up. If they don't let you in, that's messed up. Taylor overheard, her voice firm. They'll figure it out. They have to. Jordan didn't answer. He just waited, his hand over the Emma patch, feeling her strength, Ryan's trust, and the weight of 30 years. Jordan Hayes gripped the box with Ryan's dog tags, his fingers brushing the Emma patch on his chest. The cemetery gate stood like a wall, but the air felt charged, as if Ethan's small outburst had cracked something open. The funeral sounds grew sharper, a speaker's voice, a sob, the snap of a salute. Jordan's eyes stayed on the canopy, where Ryan's casket waited. He pictured Ryan's grin, the way he tossed that toy soldier back in Fallujah, saying, "Keep it, Hayes." For luck. Jordan's hand tightened on the box. He wasn't here for luck. He was here for his friend. Taylor, the guard, glanced at him, her radio crackling. They're talking about you in the tent, she said, her voice low. Ethan's making a scene. Jordan's lips twitched, almost a smile. Kid's got guts, he said. Taylor nodded. Like someone else I know. Morgan, the other guard, looked uneasy. If the brass gets mad, I'm not taking the fall, he muttered. Jordan didn't care. He'd stand here all day if he had to. The first twist came fast. A woman's shout broke through the crowd. Let him in. It was Morgan Carter, Ryan's daughter, storming back to the gate, Ethan at her side. Her face was fierce, her voice shaking. This is my father's funeral, and Jordan Hayes belongs here. The major from before appeared, his jaw tight. Ma'am, we've been over this. No clearance, no entry. Morgan's eyes flashed. Then you tell me why my dad wrote his name in every letter home. Jordan's heart skipped. Every letter? He hadn't known Ryan held him that close. The second twist hit like a wave. Ethan, the grandson, pulled free from his mother and ran to Jordan. "Mr. Hayes, I told them," he said, breathless. "I told Grandpa's boss you're a hero." Jordan knelt, wincing at the ache in his leg. "You didn't have to, kid," he said softly. Ethan's eyes were wide. "But Grandpa said you saved him and another guy. A general." Jordan froze. Another guy? His mind raced back to Fallujah, the chaos, the smoke. He'd pulled Ryan out, but there was someone else, too. Could it have been Parker? The third twist turned the air heavy. Colonel Avery, the silver-haired officer, returned, her face grim. "Hayes, I checked the records," she said. "You didn't just save Carter. You pulled General Parker out, too. He was a lieutenant then." Jordan's breath caught. Parker? The 4-star? He remembered a young officer, half-conscious, bleeding in the dirt. "I didn't know his name," Jordan said, his voice rough. Avery nodded. "He knows yours. He's coming." Jordan's stomach twisted. Coming? Why? The fourth twist landed soft, but sharp. Alex, the young soldier, stepped forward, his voice hesitant. "Mr. Hayes, I found something else online. You turned down a medal. Why?" Jordan's eyes dropped to the gravel. "Didn't want it," he said. "It wasn't about glory." Alex stared, his face open, like he was seeing a new kind of soldier. Logan, beside him, spoke up. "That's crazy, man. You could have been famous." Jordan shook his head. "I just wanted to go home to Emma." The words hung, heavy with loss. The fifth twist sparked hope. A murmur rippled through the crowd inside, heads turning toward the gate. Taylor's radio crackled loud. "Clear the path," a voice barked. "General Parker's heading out." Jordan's heart pounded. He didn't move, but his grip on the box tightened. Morgan Carter grabbed his arm. "This is it, Jordan. He's coming for you." Ethan bounced on his toes, whispering, "Told you, Mr. Hayes." Jordan didn't speak. He just watched the canopy, where a tall figure in a crisp uniform stepped out, moving toward the gate. The crowd grew quiet, their eyes following the figure. Jordan's leg burned, but he stood straighter, the Emma patch warm against his chest. He didn't know what Parker wanted, but he felt Ryan's note in his pocket, the dog tags, the toy soldier. They were enough to keep him here, no matter what came next. Jordan Hayes stood at the cemetery gate, the box with Ryan's dog tags heavy in his hand. The Emma patch on his chest felt alive, a reminder of why he was here. The crowd's murmurs grew louder as General Parker's figure moved closer, his uniform sharp, his stride steady. The funeral paused, the air thick with anticipation. Jordan's heart raced, but he kept his eyes forward, picturing Ryan's face, not the general's, but the soldier who'd shared a cigarette under a war-torn sky. He wasn't sure what Parker wanted, but he was ready. Taylor whispered to Morgan, the guard, "That's the 4-star. This is big." Morgan nodded, his radio silent now. "Hope they don't chew me out for this," he muttered. Jordan ignored them, his focus on the approaching figure. Ethan, Ryan's grandson, stood close, clutching his mother's hand. "He's coming, Mr. Hayes," he said, his voice bright. Morgan Carter smiled through tears. "Dad would have loved this," she said softly. Jordan didn't reply. He just waited, the toy soldier heavy in his pocket. The first twist came sharp. Parker stopped a few feet away, his eyes locking on Jordan. "Staff Sergeant Hayes," he said, his voice clear, not loud. "You don't remember me, do you?" Jordan frowned, searching the general's face. The eyes were familiar, but older. "Fallujah?" he asked. Parker nodded. "You pulled me out of that ditch, too. I was the second man." Jordan's breath caught. He'd never known. He just acted, dragging bodies through smoke. "Didn't know it was you, sir," he said. Parker's face softened. "I never forgot." The second twist hit deeper. Parker reached into his jacket and pulled out a small, faded ribbon. "This was yours," he said. "The bronze star you refused. I kept it." Jordan's eyes widened. He'd turned down the medal, wanting no part of ceremonies or praise. "Why?" he asked, his voice rough. Parker's voice was low. "Because you saved my life. I owed you." The crowd stirred, some gasping. Jordan shook his head. I just did my job. The third twist turned the moment electric. Parker stepped closer, his voice firm. Ryan left a directive. He wanted you to carry his flag to the altar. Jordan's heart stopped. The flag? That was for family, for high-ranking officers. Me, he whispered. Parker nodded. You. But the brass are fighting it. Protocol. Morgan Carter stepped forward, her voice sharp. My father's wish outweighs their rules. The major from earlier appeared, his face red. General, this is irregular. Parker's eyes didn't waver. So is courage, he said. The fourth twist came fast. Ethan tugged Jordan's sleeve. Grandpa said you'd carry it. He told me in a story. Jordan knelt, his leg aching. What story, kid? Ethan's eyes shone. The one where you saved him from the fire. He said you were his brother. Jordan's throat tightened. Brother. Ryan had called him that in the note, too. He stood, clutching the box. I'll carry it, he said, his voice steady. The major scoffed. He's not cleared. Parker's voice cut through. He's cleared by me. The fifth twist sealed the moment. The crowd parted as Parker turned, gesturing for Jordan to follow. Come with me, Sergeant, he said. Jordan hesitated, then stepped forward, the gate no longer a barrier. Taylor and Morgan, the guards, stepped aside, their faces proud. Alex and Logan watched, silent, their eyes wide. Morgan Carter hugged Ethan, whispering, You did it, baby. Jordan walked beside Parker, the box in one hand, the Emma patch under the other. The crowd stared, some saluting, some just watching in awe. The path to the canopy felt long, but Jordan's steps were sure. He didn't hear the whispers or see the cameras. He felt Emma's strength, Ryan's trust, and the weight of 30 years. Parker spoke softly. You didn't just save us, Jordan. You showed us what duty means. Jordan didn't answer. He just walked, ready to carry Ryan's flag, ready to keep his promise. Jordan Hayes walked beside General Parker, the box with Ryan's dog tags clutched in his hand, the Emma patch warm against his chest. The cemetery path stretched toward the canopy, where General Ryan Carter's casket waited, draped in a folded flag. The crowd was silent, their eyes following Jordan, some in awe, others confused. His boots crunched on the gravel, each step heavy with 30 years of memory. He felt Emma's smile, Ryan's laugh, and the weight of a promise kept. The gate was behind him now, no longer a barrier. He was here, where he belonged. Parker spoke softly, his voice steady. You're doing right by him, Jordan. Jordan nodded, his throat tight. He'd have done the same. Morgan Carter and her son, Ethan, stood near the altar, their faces bright with pride. Ethan waved, his small hand clutching the toy soldier's twin, a second one Jordan hadn't known existed. The crowd parted, soldiers saluting, civilians standing. Jordan didn't look at them. His eyes were on the flag, on Ryan. The first twist came sharp. As Jordan reached the altar, the major who'd blocked him earlier stepped forward, his face red. General Parker, this is a mistake, he said, his voice loud. He's not authorized. Parker's eyes narrowed. Major, stand down. This is General Carter's wish. The major hesitated, then snapped. It's protocol. Jordan stayed calm, but his grip on the box tightened. Morgan Carter stepped up, her voice fierce. My father chose him. You don't get to argue. The major's jaw clenched, but he backed off, his authority crumbling. The second twist hit deeper. Jordan reached the altar and placed the box beside the casket. He opened it, revealing Ryan's dog tags and the note. He unfolded the flag, his hand steady despite the ache in his arm. As he draped it over the casket, a small photo slipped out, tucked in the folds. It was Jordan and Ryan, young, laughing in Fallujah. The crowd gasped. Jordan's eyes burned. He hadn't known Ryan kept it there. Ethan whispered, That's you, Mr. Hayes. Jordan nodded, unable to speak. The third twist turned the air electric. Parker stepped forward, raising his hand in a crisp salute. Staff Sergeant Hayes, he said, his voice carrying, for your service, your sacrifice, and your loyalty, this is for you. He pinned a bronze star on Jordan's chest, the one Jordan had refused years ago. The crowd murmured, some clapping softly. Jordan shook his head. This is for Ryan, he said. Parker smiled. He'd say it's for you. The Major's face twisted. His earlier arrogance, now a silent defeat. The fourth twist came soft but heavy. Alex, the young soldier who'd mocked Jordan, approached the altar, his head low. "Mr. Hayes, I was wrong," he said, his voice breaking. "I looked up to guys like the Major, but you're the real deal." Logan, beside him, nodded. "We're sorry, sir." Jordan looked at them, his eyes steady. "You learn, you grow," he said. "That's enough." Alex saluted, clumsy but sincere, and the crowd watched, a ripple of respect spreading. The Major turned away, his power gone. The fifth twist sealed the moment. Morgan Carter handed Jordan a small plaque. "Dad wanted this for you," she said. It read, "In honor of Staff Sergeant Jordan Hayes and Emma Hayes. Courage carries on." Jordan's heart stopped. Emma's name carved beside his. He touched the Emma patch, his fingers shaking. "How?" he asked. Morgan smiled through tears. "Dad planned it years ago. For both of you." Jordan placed the plaque beside the casket, then stepped back, saluting Ryan one last time, his arm stiff but true. The ceremony ended with taps, its notes cutting through the silence. Jordan stood tall, the bronze star heavy on his chest, the plaque a quiet victory. The Major walked off, ignored by the crowd. His rigid rules no match for Jordan's honor. Revenge wasn't loud, but it was there. In the salutes, the apologies, the plaque that bore Emma's name. The crowd dispersed, but some stayed, veterans and families, placing hands on Jordan's shoulder, whispering, "Thank you." Jordan walked back down the path, alone now, the Emma patch still warm. He stopped by a small tree near the gate, where he buried the toy soldier beside the roots. "For you, Ree," he said softly. "And you, Emma." The moral lesson hung in the air. Honor isn't given by gates or rules. It's carried in the heart, through sacrifice, through promises kept. Jordan didn't need the crowd's eyes. He'd done what he came for.